Burnout in business rarely comes from one difficult week. It builds when the founder keeps carrying roles that should have been passed on, hires people without fully trusting them, and delays removing the wrong people because the decision feels too costly or disruptive. Over time, the owner becomes the pressure point for everything: staff, cash, clients, delivery, growth. Jim lived that pattern while building multiple businesses, and the lesson changed how he now thinks about people, character, and leadership. So listen to the end of this podcast and you'll walk away knowing how to recognize when burnout is really an operating problem, how to spot earlier when poor delegation or the wrong hire is increasing pressure, and what changes in your decisions when you stop building the business around your own capacity. So welcome to the Mental Business Podcast, where we explore what entrepreneurs learn too late, taught early, so that you can implement what actually works today and save years of your life. I'm Dr. Lewis Haydon, multi-business owner, investor, and doctor of management, and I'm here to interview real people who have been there, done it, and so we can save you years of your life. So welcome to the show, Jim. How are you today?
Oh, I'm good. Thank you very much.
Good man. We've had a bit of a debrief before the show, and I think this is going to be a really interesting show. We're talking about burnout, which is real for people. People don't go into business just to get burnt out. They go into business for a better life. So do you want to give us a bit of an experience give us your experience so far, a bit of a background to the audience, and let us know where you've been and where you're going?
Yeah. So nowadays, you can see from the logo behind me and stuff, I'm involved with HADO here in the UK, but it's been a long journey getting to where we are through a lot of different businesses and experiences. Generally, I've worked in sports, hobbies and activities, which would come into a more sort of like niche area. So everything from European martial arts training to competitive target work, to interactive gaming, experiences, events, all sorts of different things as we've worked through the process. Wow. And during that, we found there's a lot of things where you make mistakes, where you get things wrong, and also where, especially if you have had the experience, and everyone does, if you're in business long enough, where you've brought someone into the team who was wrong, and then had to find your way through that scenario, you can quite often end up in a situation where when the next person comes in, you don't fully trust because you've been burnt by the previous employee, and you end up holding too much of the responsibility and work yourself rather than getting that person who's joined your team to do what they're there to do. And it can become quite a difficult cycle to break yourself out of.
Yeah. So running a business for business owners then, when did you first realize you were not just busy, but burning out from the way the business was operating?
I think there were plenty of times when the people around me realized it, but the first point that it actually clicked for me was we were running a weekend-long event for one of the previous setups that I did, and the event we'd had several members of staff who dropped on us, and I'd ended up covering their roles during the day.
No, man.
So I'd worked an exceptionally long day, and it was a 2-day event, and we needed to do a complete changeover of the sets and setups and everything else around the production of the event we were doing.
Yeah.
And the members of staff who had dropped on us were also the ones who were meant to have done that, been involved with that. And when it was 3 a.m, and I'd just finished doing the complete change round, and realized I'd got enough time to go get a shower, a cup of coffee, and be back ready to start for day 2 for the 6:30 a.m. start. That was the point where it finally clicked. Went, yeah, okay. I know people have been telling me this for a while, but okay, no, I accept it now. This is going too far.
Well, what do you mean people have been telling you for a while then? So you've seen the signals around you, and
I got
something happened to you or something. I mean,
yeah, sort of. I'd got some very good friends working in the business with me who had been very honest with me for a while that things were going too far. I was taking on too much myself. I wasn't delegating enough on tasks, but when you're in that moment and you're doing the job and there's the next thing to do and the next thing to do and the next thing to do, you don't see it, whereas someone who's stepped that bit further back from you does. and your friends see it and everything else. And I didn't listen until hit that sort of like critical moment. I went, no, this is ridiculous, isn't it? What am I doing?
Why didn't you listen though? I mean, the reason I'm going a bit is like,
yeah.
There's a lot of people going through that right now, and
there are.
I myself go through it, and I think, well, you're not on my journey, mate. Who are you to comment?
Yeah, no, it's when you're in the moment, and it's everybody has their own things, and you're dealing with problem A, then problem B, then problem C, and you're so caught up with dealing with those things, and you're looking at it going, well, yes, I could get someone else to solve this, but I can solve it in an hour, and it's going to take me 30 minutes to explain it to someone for what they need to do, and then it's going to take them probably an hour and a half because they're not used to doing it. So it's taken twice as much time, so I might as well just do it myself. And it's a horrible, horrible cyclical habit. And it's very easy to drop into them, and it's difficult to spot that you've done it, and it's also difficult to break yourself out of.
Wow. So you went to, you was feeling the burnout. Was it like a moment in time? How did burnout show up for you over, from a longitudinal perspective?
I mean, once I accepted it, because obviously the hardest thing with any of it is accepting that you're doing it, because burnout is self-inflicted. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you don't have to burn out. You burn out because you've taken on too much and because you're doing too much, and you just don't realize it, and you keep going and going until you hit that point. But once you realize it and you start to look back at everything, you can spot all the points where you've missed opportunities, where you didn't do something at the quality or at the level it should have been done because you were tired and you weren't focusing on things, where there were mistakes made that didn't have to be made, that then made everything more complicated because you weren't operating at your actual potential. You were tired, you weren't thinking straight, you were caught up with the next thing and the next thing and the next thing.
Well, that's really interesting, Jim, because I'm, when I work with a lot of my own businesses or clients, there's a lot of like subjectivity that might come from their team, like, oh, we're feeling a bit burnt out, or we're feeling this. And I'd always go to where's the objectivity around it? And what you've just shown there is some objective signals. If these are happening in your world or in your business, like things are falling through the cracks, like that you're missing out on stuff, and you're like, why am I doing that to myself? These are signals of burnout, is what you're saying.
Yes, they absolutely are. When you're looking at something, you go, I know I could have done that better. There is a reason why you haven't done it better. And that reason is because you're tired, you're stressed, you're not focused, you're not able to bring all of your ability to bear on the task at hand. And it's because you've taken on too much and you're burning out.
Wow. And that happened. So before we go into what the solution is for burnout, is there any sort of big impacts that had on your businesses?
Yeah. I mean, obviously the businesses did not perform as well as they should have done, because I was centralizing too much on myself and taking on too many of the key roles and aspects. And the answer is, as with most answers to problems, is really straightforward and simple in the way it sounds, but actually getting yourself to do it is less so. And that is in trusting the people around you more, expanding the tasks, but also in looking at what's in front of the business and going, well, this sounds great, this sounds great, and this sounds great. But actually, if I try and take all of these things on, none of them are going to work right. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do this one, because this one's I think can really go somewhere, and I'm just going to turn the other things down, and I'm not going to do them. And we're going to say no to that job and no to this business so that I do this one right. And again, that's hard, especially when you're a young business and any young business is looking for cash flow, they're looking for income, they're looking for growth, and you've got all these opportunities coming at you, and it's so tempting to just say yes. And that then ends up means you take on too much of what you've done. You feel that responsibility to have to deliver both to the client and to look after your team. And that, again, it's all part of this burnout cycle. And getting to that point where you look at it and go, you know what, that sounds like a great opportunity, but it's a job too far, and we're just going to say no. And getting yourself where you're confident enough to do that is hard.
Yeah. So tips for small business owners then when it comes to burnout. What sort of things were you spotting that you really needed to let go of that was causing burnout?
So it's the temptation when we got a lot of what we do has been based around sports experiences, leisure, and you get the eternal curse of the, could you come do this for us? It'll be great coverage for you. You'll get great exposure. You'll do this, you do that, and it's and especially with some of the bigger events and things that are out there, it's so tempting to go, actually, that could be really good, but you're not earning anything from it, and you're accruing costs because the bank doesn't take exposure as a payment against your mortgage.
That's the reality.
And it doesn't. And unless you can see a direct route to gain income off the back of things, then it's a bad plan. We're also getting caught up in that thing and going, well, I've got X number of hours in a week that I'm employing my staff for, and we should really be doing this event, this event, this event. So everyone's busy all the time. And you end up taking on jobs which tire people out, or involve clients who aggravate people, because some people, unfortunately, are not the easiest to work with. And you end up with your team tired and grumpy. And a number of those jobs, when you actually analyse them down, they probably weren't financially worth it, or they certainly weren't worth it for the amount it burned yourself out and put pressure on your team, which meant they then didn't deliver as well as they could have done on the jobs that actually really matter.
Yeah,
and it's just so tempting when you are in that position of trying to grow, trying to get cash flow in, trying to keep your team busy, trying to get everything out there, that when those jobs come along, to say yes. And it's that discipline to look at it and just go, you know what, I'm going to say no to that one. I'm going to say no to that one. And once you start being able to do that, it becomes easier, but it's a very, very hard first step.
Wow. So the consequences of saying yes to everything isn't just about your own burnout, it's also for the burnout of the team too.
Yeah, it puts a lot of pressure on your team. You can end up losing good people over it because they see the burnout happening to themselves as well, but they don't have the sense of responsibility necessarily to the business that the business owner has. And that sense of responsibility can be literally a chain that locks you into that cycle, because you feel you need to deliver and need to do this because it's your business, it's your investment. And it's therefore much harder actually for the owner to break out of that cycle.
So why did you ever find it difficult to say no to some of these customers then, if you knew that it was also causing a lot of trouble for your business?
Because when you're in the cycle of having taken on too much pressure, everything else, it's really, really hard to see it. It's like most psychological aspects. If you're talking about whether it's burnout, whether it's things like depression or anything else, these are all cyclical things, and it's really hard to see it from the outside. Your friends, your family, they can see it, and they may even point it out to you, but to actually accept it yourself is difficult, because it's accepting that it's like anything. If you've messed up, if you've got it wrong, truly accepting, you know what, I messed that up, I did that wrong.
Right.
It's difficult to take ownership of that. But one of the bits that I've learned through the journey on all of this is that if you can't take ownership of when you got it wrong, you also then don't take ownership of when you got it right.
Wow.
Because
tell us more about that. What does that mean?
Well, you've deflected responsibility within your own mind. So you're trying to do all of this, and you're doing all these things, and it's the outside world that's caused a problem, or a rule or a regulation that's caused an issue, or a bill you weren't expecting because you weren't concentrating on the world around you properly because you're taking too much on. And it's very easy to deflect that because you don't want to accept that it's your fault.
Why? Why do you think that happens?
I think it's a natural aspect of human beings. Everything from, if you've believed something that's not true and you've gone with it, it's difficult to go, actually, no, I was wrong. That wasn't correct. If you've taken an action and to actually say, I shouldn't have done that, those are actually really difficult things for people to do and to say and to admit to. But once you've started distancing yourself from when you've made errors, it also distances you from when you've got it right. And what it means is you don't accept your successes, you don't accept your failures. You push them out and away from you, you distance yourself from them. And actually you need those successes. They're part of what stops the burnout. That's when you've got it right, when you get that buzz, and we did this right, we got it, we did it well, and properly celebrating it. And not being able to do that is, again, it's a big problem. But it's all part of this burnout cycle.
So you do, professional sport now, and you do it for England as well. Are there any lessons? Is there any correlations between what you see in the sport and business?
To an extent. I mean, HADO as a sport is still very young. We're doing really well in it. There are.
Well done, by the way. So you brought that to the UK, haven't you?
Yep. So we brought the first one here into Europe in 2018.
Amazing.
So back in 2018, we had a big experience business that ran in Birmingham. It was a venue, was right in the city centre. It was 72,500 square feet across 6 floors, and every floor was different events and experiences.
Oh my gosh.
Unfortunately, COVID happened, and we don't have that venue anymore. But that's the way of the world on things. But while we were there, we were looking for the next thing to add to what we did. And we came across some footage of HADO being played on YouTube. I thought, this looks amazing. This looks fantastic. How do we get involved with this? Where can we go and see it? Searched around, found we couldn't go anywhere in the UK to see it. Searched further afield, whereas it wasn't anywhere in Europe. And I managed to get in touch with the creators out in Tokyo. And the result was I got on a plane and I went to Tokyo because that was the only way to see it. We did the deal while I was out there, brought the sport back with us, and opened the very first European competitive HADO court, and have gone from there. I think France opened about a month, 2 months or something like after us, and it's then spread then all throughout Europe. So we've got the European Middle East and African Championship this weekend coming up, which we've got the English and Welsh teams heading out to.
Wow.
Because we now look after England, Wales, Scotland, Northern Ireland, and Republic of Ireland.
That's incredible. That's incredible. So silver lining, right? Maybe this was a bit of a...
Yeah. So bizarrely for us, COVID was, although it was a horrific experience, especially from everyone's experience, but if you're in the leisure industry where you need to be around people, it's kind of really key to your business. It was absolutely horrific. But what it forced us to do was stop. And quite possibly that being forced to stop was one of the best possible things that could have happened in terms of that cycle of burnout.
Wow.
Because it forced that break. And the thing that we saw both with ourselves and with a lot of other companies around us, what COVID did was it accelerated what was happening anyway. So if a company wasn't doing well, it accelerated that fact and they ended. If a business was going to restructure, alter its business practices and anything else over time, it did it now and it did it really fast. And for us, we were looking at all these different things we did, and we ran a lot of different experiences and events. We had multiple companies running. We went, well, some of these have worked really well. We had one that we ran in Birmingham, which was called Rage Room. And we were the first people to bring that to the UK.
I know Rage Room, yeah.
So we brought the very first one to Birmingham, into the UK, and it was absolutely brilliant. We, first 3 months, we didn't have a single client because nobody knew what it was. Mm-hmm. And then we had a guy who turned up and he was waiting for another event, went, what's that? Went and gave it a go. And for those that don't know, Rage Room, you get tugged up in your safety gear, so overalls, face mask, all the rest of it. Key your phone to the Bluetooth speaker in there for your own soundtrack. Take your choice of glassware, computer keyboards, printers, etc. Your preferred weight of baseball bat, and just let you. Awesome. And it is an amazing experience. So he went and did that. Texted one of his mates about it. Went, this was brilliant. You should come and have a look. Who happened to be a things to do in Birmingham blogger.
Yeah.
He came down and did it. Posted a piece there. The next day we had the Birmingham Mail down because they'd seen his piece. They did a piece on it. They posted it. The next day we were live on Good Morning Britain with Piers Morgan doing the lead in on it. And it just went absolutely crazy from there. Amazing. Absolutely nuts. We ended up with, we had multiple rage rooms in the building. We had 40 squads of people a week coming through.
Wow. With an average sale of what?
Well, the base booking was £45 for a room for your base set of items, and then almost everybody bought extra items whilst they were in the room as well.
So once you've got them raging, it's like, do you want to buy some more shit to smash?
Yes, exactly. Well, what we saw, that went amazing. And then we saw this proliferation of copycats spreading across the UK because it was such a good thing.
And it's quite easy to replicate, right?
It was very easy to replicate, and obviously we didn't own the IP in any way. We just brought the concept into the UK. It was out there and everything else. And prior to that, we'd worked with a few different sports as well that were really quite niche, and we'd started pioneering those and seen them sort of expand out. Because again, we didn't have any kind of control over it. We pioneered it. We thought it was brilliant. But when you're the pioneer, you're the one taking on all the cost, all the risk, working out how to do it right, and then the copycats can just replicate once you got the process right. And we'd seen this happen again and again. And then we came across HADO, and we were already thinking pre-COVID, going, well, this is something you can't copy. Should we, rather than going through all the time and expense to figure out how to do something and then have it copied, should we be doing something that you can't copy?
So, so you learned a constraint from your experience.
Yeah.
That then brought you on to doing something. Okay, well, what is the constraint, and how do we do something that removes that constraint?
Yes.
Wow. What a lesson for business owners.
Yeah. So it was, we proved we could do this. We could take a new concept, a new idea, whether it's a leisure activity, whether it's a sport, and we could help it absolutely explode and grow.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if you then don't have some control over that IP, if you don't have something that means that you can gain that the benefit from having done that, it will just be copycatted because it's a good idea and it works. So why wouldn't people just go, well, let's do that then? And that's it was a big thing for us. And when we came across HADO and went, well, because this is software based and it's licensed and all those things that come with having a piece of software, you can't just go, well, I'll set that up, because you're going to need like they had out in Japan, a team of about 30 programmers. It's going to take you multiple years to create your software and setups and everything else. And the guys in Japan are very, very protective of the IP and everything else that goes with it. When they first created it, the software, there were some issues with China, and I believe they had 13 lawsuits in China to get hold of their IP back.
Wow.
And since then, they've been very, very protective, both in how about the IP itself, but how they work with it, the hardware that's used with it, and everything else. So it's a very, from our perspective, from having been that line of having people see what you do, watch you build it up, and then take copies of it, it's a very secure environment for us to operate in now.
Well, that's
we can actually take all those lessons that we've learned over the years and go, we can now really apply it, absolutely go for it, knowing we've got that security around what we do.
Yeah, incredible startup lessons for business owners there. Absolutely incredible. That talking about the different constraints that you've had, then going on to do the next one, knowing when to quit. Knowing when to quit and where to start something new. Because I think that a lot of people as well, especially with like the social media, Instagram and TikTok, they talk about resilience and never give up. But are you using that message personally as an entrepreneur? Or is it that they're thinking, I've got to hold on to this little business that I've started. I've gone onto Company's House and made this business. I'm never going to give up, even though the economy, the model, the market might not even want that anymore. There's a time that you have to give up a business, but it doesn't mean you're giving up on your entrepreneur journey.
Yeah, it's about what's your win condition.
What's your win condition? Tell me more about that one. Yeah.
So what you're looking to do by not giving up is you're looking to win. But what is winning for you? Is winning this business, is winning this activity, is winning this product, or is winning you ending up with the quality of life that you want to leave for you and your family and those around you? Because you can close a business, you can restart a business, you can shut an idea down, you can grow an idea, you can change it, you can come up with something new, but there's only one life that you're living. And if you're following a single concept to the absolute bitter end and destroying yourself in the process, that is not winning.
Wow. Yeah. And that's
and if you lose sight of what the priority is, again, that's how you end up in burnout, where I ended up, because you get trapped in it, in that cycle, and you get so caught up in going, I've got to make this work, I've got to do that, I've got to deliver on this project. And if doing that is harming you, you are not winning.
That is so powerful. What is the win condition? Or is the
Win,
is
win,
that is that
win,
from sport or from business where you've learned that, Jim?
it's bizarrely, it's actually from, well, it's from sports. It's from sparring, particularly, where one of the best ways when you're, because I can't do anything that's mainstream, the martial arts that I teach and study, and I've been studying for 20 years, is a European martial art form from 14th century Italy. Because obviously you can't just do it standard. But when you're learning, what you're wanting to do is take on people who are better than you.
Wow.
So you're not going to win that bout because they're better than you. You know they're better than you. So your win condition isn't winning the bout. Your win condition is learning and improving because you've gone up against someone who's better than you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So your win condition was never, did I score more points? The win condition is, did I leave that experience with more skill and more ability than I entered that experience with?
Mindset for business owners. How powerful is that? Incredible.
And it's about understanding what is it you want to get from this situation, this scenario, this business, this deal, this product, and going, right, what is my win? Not, did I complete this exact thing? And sometimes winning is going, no, that doesn't work.
Yeah. Wow. That's a big lesson that needs to be taught to a lot of people, because how much do we see them, especially the young entrepreneurs that are in this hustle mentality. It's like hustle, hustle, hustle. You're doing so much work. They don't believe in burnout, and they think that they're going to win, but then they just disappear. And they disappear because all that hard work of climbing that ladder, they realize that they do get some wins, a lot of losses, but then that ladder's up the wrong wall when they get there. So, what is the win condition? Make sure the ladder's at the right wall. Let's talk about strategy then. Let's talk about the strategy. You've talked about burnout, signals for spotting it, which is a lot of business owners will listen to this and go, man, there's a few of those in my world. What about strategy? What do you do? You've mentioned about people quite a lot as well.
Yeah.
So is the strategy around yourself and people? Let's deeper dive into that.
Yeah. So there's a huge strategy around people, and that whether that be business partners, whether that be employees, whether that be friends or family. And when they're offering their help, take it. When they're offering their advice, listen to it and pay attention. But also that if you've employed someone to do a job, trust them to do the job, and let them step up, let them learn. They're going to make some mistakes in it. Of course they are. You did as well. But it's easy to kind of overlook your own mistakes because you understand why they happened. But it's very easy to be judgmental of other people's mistakes because, you messed that up. And you're going, well, yeah, but I probably would have done an equivalent thing had I been in that situation. And you have to let your team grow and work with it.
So even though you've been there before and learned from that, I mean, I get that as a business owner quite a lot. I've got a managing director who listens to the podcast. He'll be commenting later. And sometimes I see them make decisions. It could be financial decisions. It could be people decisions. And I'm like, I've been here before. I've done this. I've got that T-shirt. But it's not about me anymore. It's about my MD has to run that company for me now. As I'm I'm an investor of that business and owner. Doesn't mean I have to be there. Otherwise, there's no leverage. So for my MD to grow, they have to go through these lessons and not just me.
Exactly. And you've got to think about it from your own perspective. When you were in that equivalent situation, had someone told you, oh, don't do this, do that, would you have listened? And if you had listened, would you just gone through the motions, or would you have actually properly understood and learned from it? So, if it's not going to be catastrophic to the business, allowing your staff to make mistakes, allowing them to learn, allowing them to grow with it is important. But also making them, especially from our perspective, what we do, we're very people focused. So I have to have staff who are really, really good at working with people. Nowadays we run an awful lot of training club sessions, we run sports events, we run tournaments, but we also run corporate events and birthday parties. We do huge school events. We have the main arena for us is in Coventry. We run a tournament here that has, over the course of each academic year, has 120 Coventry schools take part in it.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's
Schools. I
when
was
we
going to
have,
say people, then you said schools, and wow.
yeah. So when we have those in here, we have 6 schools at a time with 3 teams per school competing, and your staff have got to be able to work with those groups of people. They've got to be able to interact with them, keep them happy, entertain them. But the thing we've learned from example from years doing customer facing stuff like this is you need actors as your staff, because you need someone who, when they're in front of the client, can be bouncy, energetic, smiling, fun, all the rest of it. However, and there are plenty of people in the world who are bouncy and energetic all the time. When the client goes away, what you want is your staff to no longer be bouncy and energetic, because there's a point where you just go, I can't take that anymore. I need you to stop now.
Yes.
So having people who can, from our side, what we do, be able to step up and go, right, I'm going to do this role now, I'm going to do this thing, be able to move between roles, between mindsets, is really important in it. And it's that growing those people, giving that time to develop their own style, their own way of doing things, trusting them to develop their job roles. And that's been a huge part in making this work properly.
So trusting them to develop, you mentoring, coaching, whatever the word is around it, is letting them grow. You know, you're giving them the dance floor and letting them dance in it, as rather than saying, no, you do it this way. This is the way I would do it. They have to learn and grow for themselves.
Yeah, but fundamentally, you're not hiring carbon copy clones of yourself. And generally, if you were, you'd end up in an argument with them, because obviously you'd both be right. And but what you're after is people who've got individual styles, skills, ways of doing things. And what you're looking to do is help them develop their style, their way of doing it. And they don't have to do it the way that you do it. All it has to do is get a positive result. And as long as what they're getting is positive results,
Yeah.
the fact they're doing it in their own ways, well, that's what you hired them for. I didn't hire a clone. I hired a person with an individual personality and a way of doing things and approaching things. And if their way is working, it works.
Yeah.
I don't need to interfere beyond that point.
And I think that is another burnout input variable, without going too scientific. It's another input variable. So you've got the output variables and you've got the input variables, right? The output variable is burnout. The input variable is, what are you causing to make that happen here? Yeah. And talking from my own experiences, Jim, that when I've put a board in place of a business, because I don't want to, I'm of the mentality that a business is an asset and it's their baby, my employees' baby. It's the vehicle for their life as well. And I want them to grow and run that business. And as soon as I start to go in there and pick up the phone, I'm undermining them. Mm-hmm. I'm like saying, well, you're not doing your job good enough. Let me handle it, because I don't want to do that at all. And as soon as I do, I know that I'm back into the business rather than on the business. But one of the reasons why that might happen, and I think it's some of the signals of burnouts after reflecting on what you're saying today, is that I would have conflict with a lot of my boardroom table. Now, conflict can either mean a positive or negative. And if you're in the academic world and you ever go and sit with a lot of doctors and professors, they are just arguing all the time. But they're arguing with an intention of, this is a good argument to move science and research forward, not because we don't get along. So sometimes when I'm with the board table and they will put stuff into a WhatsApp group and I'll be like, I don't agree with that, they start to piss me off, Jim. But that signal is, well, at least they're not all the same as me. So it's good that I am feeling this way, because this is how growth happens in a business.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Fundamentally, everyone has strengths and weaknesses. And if all you did was hire carbon copies of yourself, yes, you'd have a single great strength and a whole load of weaknesses, because you haven't done anything to make your business resilient and your team resilient. And you need that complete mix of skills.
Yeah.
And because without it, you have inherent weaknesses. You have things you can't cover. People work in different ways. I tend to be very much looking for, how do we develop the next thing? What's the next idea we bring in? How are we working with it? But therefore, I need team members who are also then going, right, well, we've got the last idea that Jim came up with, and how's that now running properly, and how are we getting that going as a standardized thing? And I need the team member who's in the background, who's making sure that all the hardware is set, that the tech's done, that the fire alarm checks have been done on the building, all those day-to-day things. And I don't need that team member to be coming up with the latest idea or even being customer facing. I need that team member who's looking after the building to make sure that when we turn up to do the events, that everything is right.
Yeah.
That all our certifications up to date, everything's done, everything's safe, everything works. And that's what they do, and they do it really well. But if I ask them to be customer facing, that's not their skill set. If I ask them to come up with new ideas and business things, that's not their skill set.
Yeah. Having the ice in the
that,
place, right? Having ice in places.
Yeah. You just need to have the right people in with the right skills in the right roles.
Yeah.
And the thing we've learned above and beyond all else is that, especially with the different things that we do, because so much is customer facing and to do with, I suppose, inspiring people and bringing passion to what they do, that people's qualifications and skills have very, very little bearing on whether they're going to be a good member of your team or not. It's about the person. The right person will learn. But just because you've already got a given qualification doesn't mean you're the right person for the business.
Interesting. So the elephant in the room then, really, Jim. Hiring and firing for business owners. Let's go there. And for the HR people that are listening right now, you can't do that with an irregular. Yeah, you're right. And that's where you become very valuable, HR people. But as business owners, right, we need your guidance, HR people. But as business owners, hiring and firing for small business owners, when do you know when to hire, what to look for, and then the firing? How do you know that delegation hasn't worked?
I mean, hiring is reasonably straightforward. Definitely know when your team are being overworked. As we already discussed, it can be harder to realize you're putting too much on yourself. But you know when that workload needs to be done, there's too much coming in, you can't cope with it properly. You also know if you're trying to expand the business or take on new projects where you don't have a given skill set, especially if it's a specialized skill set of some kind. So knowing that you need a person is relatively straightforward. Working out what you want in that person and everything else is reasonably okay. Interviews, by default, you're seeing people for a very short period of time. And you've read the CV, you've interviewed them, but it doesn't really give you an idea of what they're like when things come under pressure. And things do, and especially from our perspective, because we do a lot of people interaction, but a lot of live events and everything else. And there's always something that goes wrong, especially in live events. And there's no way of getting around it because it's just the nature of what happens. We've done big events at the NEC, down at Olympia, Excel, all over the shop, and something gets forgotten, something goes wrong, there's a problem because it's just the nature of it. And seeing how people react and move under that pressure and how they cope with it, until you're in the scenario, you don't really know.
The big problem for businesses because you're judging it off a piece of paper and what they've put on it. Yeah,
and obviously you've had your face-to-face interviews and things, but people obviously put on a front an interview. You want the job, you want to get hired. You're trying to say the right things. You're trying to be the right way, and it doesn't mean you actually like that once you get the job.
Yeah.
So you can try and hire obviously you try and hire to the best of your ability. You try and get the right people. You try and get the right things with it, but it isn't easy. And when you do realize, and you normally realize relatively quickly, that you've got the wrong person, and that could be they just don't gel with the rest of the team at all. They themselves with the right team might be amazing, but with the team you've got in the business, they are an oil and water combination, and it's never ever going to change. They clearly they're just personality types don't work, or they've told you they can do a thing, that they can operate in a certain way, and the first time you put them in that scenario and it just doesn't happen or it goes wrong, and you go, they're not. They've sold themselves beyond what they're capable of doing, and we need to rely on them to be able to do this, and they can't do it. And actually, by them not doing it, they've created so much more work for everyone else, and there's no reasonable reason to believe that they're going to be able to do it.
Mm-hmm.
But then still, as we've already discussed on the burnout aspects and everything else, admitting you've made a mistake, especially in a small company with a small business, it's difficult because you have to trust your own judgment all the time, because there aren't the people to refer to and necessarily bounce things off, especially in the early days. And so admitting that you've brought the wrong person into the team, and then looking about, okay, what do we do about that? Because, if you've got a bad hire in a company with 1,000 employees, it's not a problem. You've got one bad hire in a company with 4 employees, that's massive. And so the smaller you are, the more important it is that you bring in the right people, and that when you haven't got the right person, obviously again for the HR people, that you do it correctly and legally and by the book, but that you find a way for that person to then exit the business.
Yeah, and it's got to be a win-win, isn't it? Because at the end of the day, you keeping hold of that person and them just collecting a salary isn't their right career anyway.
No, it's
not
not
right
it's
for them. They're not going to grow in that role. It's not.
No,
Yeah.
no. I mean, they don't necessarily accept that, but because obviously their interest is themselves, whereas your interest is the business and the team.
Yeah.
And if that wasn't the case, then obviously the clash and things probably wouldn't have occurred. But no, it's very rare that an employee that really doesn't fit with the business will ever accept that they don't fit with the business.
Mm-hmm.
So they are difficult and toxic situations on a regular basis. Every now and then, it can be a mutual, look, this just isn't working, is it? We're just not right for each other. And if you get that, amazing. And I have had that, and that particular person we're still in contact with, and it's still a positive relationship. Same way we've got a number of team members over the years who have left us to go on to other things. But on a regular basis, if we have a big event or a big something on, because they know what we do, we can pick up the phone or send them a message and go, you're free this weekend. They go, yeah, not a problem, mate. We'll come down. We'll come and cover.
Yeah, because
we've all wherever possible, we've ended with a very positive relationship. But if it's someone who really is a bad fit for the company, and that's only become apparent after they've joined you, then undoubtedly there is a way to do it. But I haven't found a way to do it that doesn't end up with it being a bad situation in terms of removing, because fundamentally they don't want to go.
Yeah, I think from the podcast being a discussion amongst founders, really, myself and you, I've always found that being candid, being direct is only ever okay as long as it comes from a place of care and wanting the best for the business, the win-win, and most of all for them as well. So obviously, the HR stuff kicks in and things. And you've got to do it right for business owners. But as long as you care and you don't keep it bottled up because you're afraid to actually face it, you're in a place then if you're not prepared to have that direct conversation, then you're not doing any favors to anybody. So direct conversations coming from the heart really is a good strategy that people could start to implement if they're listening to the podcast.
Yeah, and fundamentally it's difficult to go, no, I messed up, I brought the wrong person in, and admit that to yourself. It can be difficult having that conversation because often that person, part of what they're wrong is they can be quite confrontational and everything else in the way they operate. And dealing with that is hard, and it is very tempting to let that process drag out over time, because it can be quite a difficult scenario to take it head on. But without question, taking it head on is the right answer.
Yeah.
The faster you resolve that situation, the better for everybody involved. The less toxic and unpleasant it can become, the quicker you get your team back on track, the quicker you're looking for the right person rather than the person who was with you, and the quicker that person can then themselves move on with their own life and their own career, and go to find something that is right for them. So it is trying to find the right people, trying to hire the right people. All of these things is a skill, and they're useful, but without question, being able to identify someone who just is a bad fit for your team, for your business, and for what you do. That doesn't mean that they're not competent or capable. They just don't work with your team.
Yeah.
And being able to go, right, this doesn't work, and remove and correctly removing them from the team is incredibly valuable. It's a really hard skill to do, but it is so important for your business, especially when it's a small team, because one toxic person within that mix And so that toxicity doesn't have to be necessarily them as a bad person. They just don't click. And all of a sudden you find that your core team are now themselves going, well, I don't want to be around that person. I don't want to work with them. I know we've got a big event on that you need me some extra hours on, but that person's going to be there. No, I'm not going to be available for those extra hours. Maybe I might, if they're going to stay here they're here permanently, maybe I might start looking to go somewhere else. And all of a sudden you can start losing those real core team members who you absolutely rely on and who the business is built around.
So these are the hidden costs for small business owners. People, burnout. Are there any other hidden costs, Jim, from your perspective, either psychologically or physically, logically, financially, that you see that occurs from having this sort of wrong people in your business?
I mean, wrong people absolutely affects financially, because obviously you're paying them. They are either not producing what they're expected to themselves, or they're disrupting other people or the way the business works. So they are a financial liability in what they do, whether directly or indirectly across the group. So yes, they are a big problem. Again, it's why, as difficult as it can be, dealing with it correctly and dealing with it head on and quickly is good, because not only does it resolve things in terms of, I suppose, the emotional aspects of it, but it also helps end whatever that financial issue is that's being generated by them being the wrong fit.
But I think as well, Jim, though, that financial issues can sometimes see that people see the loss, but they also don't see what it's costing them by not having the right person. People don't miss what they haven't had. Yeah,
the potential loss can be huge as well.
Yeah.
I mean, we have. I mean, it's taken a while. As I said, we brought some of the wrong people in. They didn't fit with the team. They've now moved on to other things. But we've also found some people who are absolutely fantastic along route. And the bit that we've, I suppose, learned most of all is that what's needed is, and what we're now starting to look for more and more, is about passion for what we do. With the different events and things we've run over the years, a lot of different businesses, what we found after we found our initial team was that a lot of our employees came from our customers, the good employees. Right. People we hired from outside who weren't part of our world and what we were doing were more likely to have a bad fit. The people who came from, and what we found was that we'd have people coming to us as customers, coming to events, coming to things we did, absolutely loving it. Then sort of, hanging around a bit later on, chatting with the members of staff, chatting with us, something I can help out with, starting to volunteer. And so you really got to know them over time, but they had an absolute understanding of what you were trying to do. And they were passionate about it because they enjoyed this and they wanted to help and they wanted to be part of it. And then drawing those people into the team to become staff members, that has got some of the most incredible people through doing that.
It's incredible. I think, Jim, from the whole podcast, what I'm taking about is that some people think that burnout equals tired and exhausted, and that's the wrong terminology, really. So, burnout simply because working hard isn't the right term of burnout. You've definitely changed my mind on burnout, by the way, because I have got this little bit of a hustle mentality, and when I start to see burnout, I go into a little bit of a denial around it. Well, business is never going to be easy. And if you're going to be an entrepreneur, then you're going to be facing this on a daily. And then the next day I have a good sleep and it's like, well, I wasn't burnt out. I was just a little bit tired. So there's spots in that state of tiredness and feeling burnt out and using an excuse I don't particularly agree with. But burnout, from your perspective here, is the cracks that start to form that make different decisions around hiring, delegation, responsibility, delaying people decisions. These are the real burnout signals.
Yes. Yeah. No, they absolutely are. And I said it's cyclical. It's a psychological trap you put yourself in, and it can be very difficult to spot it, to realize, or not to spot it, but to admit to yourself that it's there.
Yeah.
And if you've got some good people around you, whether it be team members, whether it be family, whether it be friends, hopefully they will 100% spot it before you do. Listen to them. If you've got people you care about telling you, this is going too far, you've got this problem, that this is happening.
Yeah, but the anti to that, Jim, and in today's world and today's memes on Instagram is that people don't want to see you succeed. So, pardon my French, fuck them and keep on hustling. and you're saying,
right. I'm not saying listen. I'm not saying absolutely not saying listen to the comments section in social media, because that's always an error. Never ever read the comments. But I'm talking about your actual close family, your close friends, the people who are with you on a day to day.
Yeah,
the people who actually care about your well being. If they're advising, if they're going, look, are you okay? Is this worth it? Listen to them.
Mm-hmm.
And then look about, what are you doing? Why are you doing these things? How are they doing it? And if you're not feeling that, especially if it's something where you're putting a lot of effort and a lot of work in, if you're not getting anything out of it, and that doesn't necessarily have to be financial, that could be enjoyment. Are you enjoying what you do? Is there a passion for this? Do you want to get up and do this? If the answer is no, well, if all it is about the money, you can make money doing lots of different things.
Yes.
So go make money doing something where you actually wake up and go, yeah, I want to do this. This is fun. And that's kind of why we've ended up with partly with cutting away all the other things we did, partly with the way we've ended up structuring the teams. We've got the right people around us. When we first got into working with HADO, we thought it was, it's a sport, it's another activity, it's another thing to what we do. But now having developed it, we've got this massive project running with different sports authorities, getting disabled players on the courts. In our club sessions, probably a third of the teenagers involved in the regular training clubs are neurodivergent, and it's the only sports they play.
Wow. Amazing.
And we've watched we've had kids who've now been training for like 3-4 years, and watching them come from quite sort of introverted kids in some cases with autism and various other aspects of things that they're having to learn their own strategies with how to work with, and watching them come out the shells, watching them gain confidence, physical ability, friends, social groups, all these things, and their parents going, this is just incredible because of what you're doing. And you go, so once you've got that in what you're doing, yeah, you get a day where you're tired and you're feeling down and everything else, and you go, and then you can stop yourself and go, yeah, I might be down, I might be tired, but I've done this, I've done this, I've done this. And it's going, yeah, right, maybe it was worth it. And it's about that, what I said at the start, that win condition. What is your win condition? Yeah, there are lots of ways. If what you want to do is make money, there are lots of ways to just make money. If you want to do something which at the end of the day hasn't necessarily made you vast fortunes, but when you think back about what you've done, you smile and you go, yeah, that was good. I like that. I liked being responsible for making that happen.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. That's a different win condition, and for me, that's a good win condition. It's where we've ended up. I want to do something that when I look back at what I achieved, that I'm happy with what I've done.
Do you know what? Before I spoke to you today, my whole thought process, I mean, this is how I position it in my mind as well for when I am having those down days. Because it's the entrepreneur roller coaster, right? Everybody's going through it. If you don't think that's the reality, then don't get into entrepreneurism, because you've got to be able to be resilient in this. But what I tell myself is burnout is only burnout if you don't win. If I'm never winning, and it doesn't mean win like in 5 years, it means like, did I win the day? Did I just achieve something? Was all that hard work and stress and tiredness around it at the end of the day worth it? And if I can say yes, it doesn't feel like burnout. But if I'm going week to week to week and it's going for like 3 months where I don't feel like I'm winning, that's where I define that this is me burning out now. It's like, you can imagine the candle is like just not getting anywhere. It's getting smaller and smaller and it's not moving forward. And for me, that was not the academic term, by the way. I have to be careful because of all the other professors and doctors that listen. But for me, that's my experience of burnout. But you've repositioned it today, Jim. So I thank you for that, because it's really helped me on my entrepreneur journey, and I'm sure it will on the others as well. Of this is what burnout really looks like, and the cracks that start to form before you do get burnt out. And that's so powerful. It's like having a crystal ball to burnout, right?
Yeah, it is. And it's this again, we mentioned at the start, this idea of sort of wins and losses and everything else. Burnout comes because you can't accept your losses. And once you can't accept your losses, you can't accept your wins.
Nice.
But therefore, by what we've managed to achieve, what we've done here over the years, and how we restructure everything, because we're now looking at, have we created an amazing team? Have we run a fantastic event? Have we got a whole load of people smiling? Have we got crowds of people cheering at a tournament or an event or something we're doing, and being able to look and go, I did that. That accepts the win, and once you're able to accept your wins, you now start accepting the losses. So you go, yeah, okay, I also messed that up and I did that wrong and I did this. Right, let's fix this. Let's step back from that. And it's all part of the same equation.
Yeah. Well, what a big lesson I've learned from you today, Jim, is define your win. Because like you said, I used to do a lot of jiu-jitsu, and then I'd get in there and I'd walk away and I've got like bronze medal. Did I actually win? Well, I won just by going on and learning from a tournament. I could have easily gone, no, I'm not ready for that, and self-sabotage kicks in, and I don't grow by not doing more tournaments. So I'd always just put my hand up and go, yeah, I'm in. Don't get me wrong, I was pretty bad. But the win was just to turn up. Yet there'd be people there that won silver, and they would be like getting yelled at by the coach and beating themselves up and you could see them at the corner, like with the hoodies on, like miserable. I'm like, did you win or did you not win? What is the win? Big lesson I've got for you, and I really appreciate that. Before we wrap up then, Jim, is there any other messages or one final message you'd like to give to our listeners to help them with burnout and people?
I think it's really just, I suppose, summarising what we've been discussing all the way through. To understand what winning is for you. Money is almost always a measurement system. It tells you whether you're doing it right or not, but it's not winning. It's not the end goal. And if you think it is, you're in trouble. It's about trusting the people around you. You're hiring them for a reason. It's about identifying when you've got someone who just doesn't fit with you, your team, everything else, and correctly and quickly removing them, because in a small company, you can't afford to have a wrong person with you. And it's about accepting when you've gone wrong. It's about accepting when you've gone right, and owning all of it.
Amazing.